left would like you to believe that Trump's all wrong about this, but per usual, Trump's instincts, in my view, are right. Unfortunately, the first part of the news is the terrible plane disaster here in Washington, D.C. A plane trying to land at Reagan National Airport was, I think we have some of the black and white videos, various videos, was hit by a helicopter from an air base or from a local base out just, well, I think it's technically in Washington, D.C., Bowling. And it's just terrible. The plane was coming in like this, and the helicopter hit it. There you see a better, terrible view. There you go. The plane went down into the river. No one survived. More clear view here. Terrible. And so, at least 3 service members died. 64 died on the plane, including a lot of young people who were prodigies in the area of figure skating. So they were all coming back from some type of clinic from Wichita, and very upsetting. And the explosion was heard all around Washington, D.C. Thankfully, I'm far enough away. My home's far enough away from the airport. I didn't hear anything, but I was just talking with my colleagues. They heard it on Capitol Hill. And many people live in the area. And the question is, when you see something like that, is how did it happen? And it's obviously an error of, looks like the military pilots in the helicopter, but also air traffic control. Now, to be clear, Reagan National Airport is a busy airport. It's when you see a map of Washington, D.C., you kind of see the map, and Reagan is, you know, to the immediate south and west across the river, and so it's in the middle of a metropolitan area. In addition, though, we have a massive military presence in the D.C. area because we're the nation's capital. And so if you live and work in the area, you regularly see helicopters going up and down the Potomac River, over the city and such, and you know, and they're military helicopters, it's clear. And that was what happened just across the river from Reagan Airport when that helicopter, military helicopter, evidently was too high. Of course, we don't know the details yet, and just flew right into that jet. Just can't believe it happened. And the first reaction is, how did it happen? It's in terms of, were there policies and procedures in place with air traffic control that led to a failure to control the airspace? Air traffic control, control the airspace, make sure it's safe for everyone present in it. And it wasn't. They were understaffed. The Washington Post, you know, there have been numerous stories. The Washington Post story, I don't know if we can call up the headline from the Washington Post. They had 2 people doing the jobs of 4 people in the tower that night. And not only that, but one person, according to the Post, had the job of dealing with airplanes and the helicopter traffic. And it wasn't like they could just go from one dial to the next. They were on different radio systems. So really complicated. And of course, the president immediately kind of cuts to the chase, right? He wants to know, did the hiring practices, the obsession with DEI at the FAA help lead to this tragedy, contribute to the failures of government here? And I think it's a fair question to ask. Now, President Trump specifically targeted the race-based hiring obsession at the Federal Aviation Administration in his executive orders last week. And here's the executive order. Let's bring up the video of him signing the executive order. He explains it. Let's bring that up first.
Second, for your signature, we have a presidential memorandum titled Immediate Assessment of Aviation Safety. In light of the damage done to aviation safety by the Biden administration's DEI and woke policies, what this presidential memorandum orders is for your Secretary of Transportation and FAA Administrator, in this case acting FAA Administrator, to basically ensure that we are actively undoing all of that damage, that we are assessing how much damage was done, and that we're ensuring that people hired within the FAA, in keeping with your memorandum of January 21st, are only the most outstanding, capable people for the jobs that they're being hired into.
In other words, competence.
Yes, sir. Elevating competence over everything else instead of the DEI policies that were pursued by the Biden administration.
I think everyone understands that. And Obama.
Yes.
Both of them. Okay, but Biden much worse. Not even a contest. What they've done is just crazy in so many other ways.
So to President Trump's credit, he tried to address this issue immediately. That was last week. I think it was issued the day after he was inaugurated, that one. Let's bring up the aviation executive order. It's just killer in terms of what they've been doing there. During the prior administration, the FAA betrayed its mission by elevating dangerous discrimination over excellence. For example, prior to President Trump's inauguration, the FAA Diversity and Inclusion website revealed that prior administration sought to specifically recruit and hire individuals with serious infirmities that could impact the execution of essential life-saving duties. Illegal and discriminatory diversity, equity, and inclusion hiring, including on the basis of race, sex, disability, or any other criteria other than the safety of airline passengers and overall job excellence, competency, and qualification, harms all Americans who deserve to fly with confidence. I hereby order the Secretary of Transportation and Federal Aviation Administrator to immediately return to non-discriminatory, merit-based hiring. So he was right on it. Immediate assessment of aviation safety. And here he highlights some of the disturbing details of the obsession with race. The Biden administration egregiously rejected merit-based hiring, requiring all executive departments and agencies to implement dangerous diversity, equity, and inclusion tactics, specifically recruiting individuals with severe intellectual disabilities in the FAA. Now, no one's against making appropriate jobs available for anyone with an intellectual disability. I mean, but you don't want them doing anything above their capacities, especially in a public safety agency like the Federal Aviation Administration. And here is a top official at the Biden administration confirming the obsession of race-based hiring, where diversity and equity are king, and merit and non-discrimination are afterthoughts.
Hi, I'm Brad Mims, Deputy Administrator at the Federal Aviation Administration. We are looking for the best and brightest to join us as air traffic controllers. We need a diverse group of air traffic controllers to bring distinct perspectives to handle the ever-changing aerospace landscape. I'm calling on students and alumni from HBCUs, Hispanic serving institutions, and tribal colleges to apply now to become air traffic controllers. I don't want anyone interested to miss out on this amazing career opportunity. Make sure you complete your full application during our application window. The short application window ends on May 8th.
So why do they need a diverse workforce? Why? What they need is a competent workforce. And if it happens to be diverse, wonderful. But the idea that you are treating people like, basically like widgets, and you're looking to see how many of a specific color widget you have is dehumanizing and discriminatory. So what they're telling everyone else is don't apply. And so it's no surprise when the Washington Post and they kind of are forced to admit the following: is you look at the headline in the Washington Post. It's no friend of the Trump administration. Understaffed before deadly collision. 2 of Reagan National Airport's air traffic controllers were doing double duty Wednesday night. In fact, the Washington Post goes on to report that a plane had to divert to avoid hitting a helicopter the day before this accident. I mean, the FAA has long been a mess. It's essentially disinviting entire swaths of the population with this DEI obsession. Regular folks don't want to work in an organization where race is the central guiding principle and racialism, where they're made to feel terrible about being a member of a particular race, or even the supposed beneficiary of this DEI programs. They feel terrible too, because it's always 24/7 race. And they just want to work. So it's no surprise they can't find staff. There's a class action lawsuit that was just filed by white applicants or people who were seemingly punished for being the wrong race in applying to the FAA. And when you mix all that in with Reagan Airport being really one of the small, it is to fly into Reagan Airport. I try not to pay attention when we land because it's just so. You're coming in over the water typically. The runway looks too short, and it's usually a little bit. To me, it seems shorter than most other runways you kind of run into in many other parts of the country. I recall many years ago hearing that former naval pilots liked to land at Reagan because it reminded them of landing on an aircraft carrier. Good for them, but not reassuring to the public. And I recall a few years ago, and Reagan's been notorious. I was on a plane landing at Reagan, and I'm sitting in the aisle seat, and the woman who was sitting at the window, after a few seconds, said, "What's going on?" And she said, "Look at the window." I look at the window, I'm like, where are we? We were literally skimming across about 12 feet above the tarmac, flying over an area that looked like sidewalks in places planes aren't supposed to fly, and then we had to take off again. Why? Because another plane was present. Did that make the news? I don't think so. I tried to contact the FAA about it. I couldn't figure out how to get through on their website or even to track if the incident was reported. So the government is awful. It can't do its job. And often and on top of like government inefficiencies and bureaucracies being dysfunctional almost inherently, they've layered on top of this DEI obsession. So no, it doesn't mean that the air traffic controllers or the pilots in the military, which also has this DEI obsession, or at least until Pete Hegseth and President Trump took over. It just means that the trainings and the focus of the organization is diverted. In the military, lethality, and the basic training, that's a distraction from DEI as far as the commies pushing it are concerned. Same in the FAA. And it leads to diminished recruitment, both in the FAA, I would submit, and in our military. And it adds stress to the people who are there, still trying to do the work, God bless them. And that's how accidents happen and lives are lost. So the left would like you to believe that Trump's all wrong about this, but per usual, Trump's instincts, in my view, are right. And here's he talking about this issue more specifically.
Upon entering office, I signed something last week that was an executive order, very powerful, on restoring the highest standards of air traffic controllers and others, by the way. then my administration will set the highest possible bar for aviation safety. We have to have our smartest people. It doesn't matter what they look like, how they speak, who they are. It matters intellect, talent, the word talent. They have to be talented, naturally talented geniuses. You can't have regular people doing that job. They won't be able to do it. But we'll restore faith in American air travel.
So Trump's right, and I hope he gets to the bottom of it. And if you want the best possible government agency performing this key function necessary for protecting the lives of countless innocent Americans, you've got to be sure they're mission focused. And DEI is not mission focused. And this is why his efforts to reform and rein it in are so significant. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button and like our video down below.